Hello there and welcome to Folk-a-Dilly Tales. Every week we will be here to tell you some crazy stories, some amazing poems accompanied by some fantastic songs. My name is John Hales and I will be your host. This week we have Mario Price and Chris Richardson to tell you the story of the wizard, the painter and the tramp.
North Norfolk, England. Malcolm Brown, a resident of the village, was given a peculiar gift by his eccentric friend, Major F.R. Buckley. The Major, who fancied himself a wizard, presented Malcolm with a special paint to be used for his next masterpiece. Intrigued by the unusual gift, Malcolm set out to create a painting that would capture the essence of a haunting story he had heard years before. The story revolved around a tramp who had met an untimely demise in the very spot that Malcolm chose as his subject. Strangely, when the painting was exhibited, viewers began commenting on the presence of the tramp within the artwork. They spoke of seeing a smiling figure, despite Malcolm intentionally omitting the tramp's body from the painting, only including his pack leaning against a log. The inexplicable ability of numerous people to perceive the tramp within the painting remained a mystery. The artwork garnered attention and intrigue, captivating the imaginations of those who encountered it. In 2010, the painting was sold to a private buyer, and since then it has remained hidden from public view, adding to its enigmatic allure. The Tramp in the Woods painting continues to be a fascinating and elusive piece of art, forever entwined with the haunting tale that inspired its creation.
Thank you, Mario. That was wonderful. And now, as promised, we have Chris Richardson here to give you a different version of that story.
And this story is based on my imaginings from a true story told by a local artist up in North Wootton in Norfolk to Leslie and Mario. The name of the artist is Malcolm Brown, and I understand he's a fine local artist. And he remembers being asked to paint a picture of a local landscape, part of the woods up in North Wootton. But what was odd about this was two things. First of all, who asked him to paint this picture? It was a Major Buckley. Major Buckley, he's an ex-military man. He was an ex-military man. He's no longer with us. But it seems as though he'd had a rather colourful military career. He was one of those shady military intelligence kinds of gentlemen, somewhere where you ask him where he's been and he always comes up with the names of places the British Army weren't supposed to have been. And it seemed when he finally came back home, those that knew him said that he seemed different, changed in some way, and the place that he took up residence in was the well-known, most haunted house in King's Lynn, and it seemed as though he was most at home there. And those that went in to see him for whatever reason They said they saw strange symbols painted in various places, and one day when they walked in, there was even a line of salt running across the threshold. And it seemed as though those people that crossed the Major always seemed to come upon some misfortune themselves. There was the conservation officer when he wanted to install a new window in the house, and his permission had been refused, and suddenly the conservation officer's car shut down suddenly in the fast lane on the A47. And then there was the next door neighbour who had accidentally run over the Major's cat. And not long afterwards, his own dog died. So there was an air of something mystical about this man, slightly strange. And so Malcolm, who knew him passingly, an acquaintance, was surprised when he came down from King's Lynn and he asked him to paint a picture, a very specific picture. A picture, as I've mentioned, of some woodland in North Wootton. Some woodland where it turned out that many, many years ago there'd been a tramp who used to make his way around the village. And that tramp, sadly, had died in exactly this spot. And the Major was asking Malcolm to imagine it and paint a picture of it. And Malcolm asked, why? Why do you want this? And the Major simply said, I've been researching some of my family history and it's something I think I want to be done. And the Major said, and I want you specifically to use these oils in your painting. I brought them back from Asia one time and this is the right time to use them. Well, Malcolm knew a little bit about the stories of this tramp, because although it had been many years ago, it was not out of the memory of some of the oldest of the villagers. And it seemed as though their memories were very positive and fond ones. It seemed as though the tramp was not a common vagrant, begging and causing a general nuisance. No, he would always work for his money. He would always be kind and polite, and he would play with the children. But when he was offered the chance for a bed for the night, he would always decline and say never again would he sleep under a roof with rafters and beams. Much he preferred to sleep under the open sky. So Malcolm went out to the site of the woods and he began to start making sketches. He had asked the Major, he said, what kind of features did this tramp have? I must have something to spark my mind to paint a likeness of him. And the Major said he had a shock of red hair and a most magnificent handlebar moustache. Well, Malcolm started to work and he started to sketch, and he found as though he just could not find the right way of drawing this tramp, because he didn't know him. He had this magnificent piece of countryside in front of him, but he didn't know the tramp. He couldn't just draw a stock of red hair and a handlebar moustache. So he decided, I can only draw what I can see. I can see the trees, I can see the flowers, and in my mind's eye I can see that poor tramp's pack. And so that's what he drew, and that's what he painted. But with some trepidation, he then took that painting to the Major and gave it to him and asked for his thoughts. And the Major unwrapped it and he looked at it a good long while. He looked at it from different angles. And by now Malcolm was beginning to get a little bit nervous about what the Major was going to say. But the Major says, it's magnificent. It's just as I hoped it would actually be. And Malcolm didn't know what to think. But the Major, he hung it in his hallway, and he called upon the villagers of North Wootton to come and see it, for it was part of their history too. And sure enough, they all trooped in. They all saw it, and they said, yes, It's a perfect vision of the woods. And the tramp. Yes, I always remember that stock of red hair and the handlebar moustache. And as they all filed out, Malcolm stood there and stared, for he could see no sign of that tramp hair or moustache or whatever. He became aware of someone still there behind him at his shoulder, and he thought perhaps one of the villagers is still here. And he turned round, and there was a man there with a shock of red hair, a handlebar moustache, in the white tunic and dark trousers with a stripe of a member of the Indian Army. And he was staring at Malcolm, staring with anger. And then he stared back at the painting and smiled. Malcolm turned round. He looked at the picture, but the picture was still the same. There was no sign of the tramp, just his backpack. But he looked back round, and the soldier was no longer there. And no matter how hard he looked, he could find no sign of him. But then the Major walked in, and Malcolm turned to him and said, "What did you find when you looked back through your family history?" He said, "My father. He was there at the time of the Indian Mutiny. And he was trapped in a house, and it was only through the auspices of one of his soldiers who dragged him out from those burning beams and burning roofs. It was only that saved him." And did this soldier have red hair and a handlebar moustache? "Yes," said the Major, smiling. "You paint a very good likeness." With that, Malcolm made his way home. And he never did see the face of the tramp or the soldier in that picture. And then one day it was sold on to a private buyer. And it disappeared, and Malcolm forgot about it for a while. But then, not so many years ago, it came once again up for auction. And Malcolm did his best to try to get a glimpse of it, see if now, with the passage of years, something had changed. But no, Malcolm was never able to see the tramp in the woods.
Tramp in the woods. A sorcerer, a painter, and a tramp. A combination that is hard to comprehend. And here's a story about the three of them as the painter came to see his friend. A powerful warlock who had promised him a spell he couldn't really understand. And to the painter the story would unfold, just like the sorcerer had once foretold. A tramp one day came walking down this road, sat by the way to shed his load. Weak and frail, he sat down peacefully, and slipping away, he passed quite naturally. Round and round the cauldron goes, boiled with magic and with lizard toes. A lock of hair from the lady fair, and a large white tooth from the dragon lair. Stir and bake a rattlesnake, fairy wings and scorpion stings. A curse we call the witch's bane. It's a recipe for magic paint. And so the painting was shown for all to see, designed without the poor tramp's seen. People came from far and wide to gaze at the famous artwork he'd composed. And the tramp was there for all exposed. Yet for the baffled painter, the tramp just didn't show. Round and round the cauldron goes, boiled with magic and with a lizard toes. A lock of hair from the lady fair, and a large white tooth from the dragon lair. Stir and bake a rattlesnake, fairy wings and scorpion stings. A curse we call the witch's bane. It's a recipe for magic paint. Mario and I would like to dedicate this episode to Malcolm Brown, who sadly passed away on the 21st of October 2024. He leaves us with an incredible story and some wonderful artwork, including The Tramp in the Woods. He was a wonderful man, and he would have loved this episode. It was an honour and a pleasure to meet him.
Thank you, Leslie. He sounds like a very special man. Next week, the jolly tale of the Grim Reaper.
Jolly Reaper came for Johnny in the dead of night. Every time he dreamed death caught him, Johnny thought for sure that he would die of fright. Sleep deprived, awake for days, 'cause Johnny never left the house for anyone. He locked the doors and barred the windows, even kept a fire in the pale moonlight. Too afraid to sleep. You can't flee, you can't hide. They say that he will find you.
Folk-a-Dilly Tales is a Zingaro Blue production. It was written, produced and edited by Mario and Lesley Price. Mixed by Frank Erlenkämper. The poems, lyrics and songs are also written by Mario and Lesley Price. My name is John Hales and I've been your host. Our storytellers this week were Mario Price, Chris Richardson, and the poem was read by Lesley Price. The contents of this podcast are based on the book Folk Stories, Legends and Poems by Mario and Lesley Price, and are available as a book and an e-book from Amazon under the name Folk Stories, Legends and Poems. The music can be found under that same name and as volumes 1 and 2 streaming on all major platforms. Today's background music was supplied by Scott Buckley. You can find the link to these compositions in the comments below. Be sure to check out our music videos that tell some of our stories on YouTube. For more information about Zingaro Blue, visit our website at www.zingaroblue.co.uk or find additional links in the comments section. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please hit the follow button so that you can listen to the next episode of Folk-a-Dilly Tales. Thanks for listening.